So now simplify it. Now this is what you're looking at. We're now looking at taking this guy and we're going to break him into 3 pieces. We're going to break him into the square. We're going to break him into the leftover. And then we're going to have the -1. So it's now going to be 3 pieces. The 2 pieces we've been working with, plus now we need to add the imaginary part. So when I look at now the square root of -36, 36 is a square, there's no leftover. This becomes the square root of 36 times the square root of -1. The square root of 36 is 6. The square root of -1 is I, so your answer is 6 times I. Yes?
Isn't it -36?
But what is 36 times -1? It was -36. So I pulled a -1 off because he needs to be by himself. So this is the opposite of the square root of. Now 45 is not a perfect square, so this is going to be breaking into 3 pieces. It's going to be 9 is the square, 5 is the leftover, and -1. So this is the opposite of the square root of 9 times the square root of 5 times the square root of -1, which is the opposite of square root of 9 is 3, square root of 5 is the square root of 5, square root of -1 is I. By the way, most of the time you'll find that your book will write it this way. And the reason why they do that is so that you know that I isn't under the radical. The more correct way is this one. But either answer, either one is fine. Oops. Forgot to include the I. Now I don't know what that 1 is there. I don't know what that is there for, so we'll ignore it. So this is 6 subtract 3 pieces. The square of 98 is 49. Leftover is 2. -1. 6 minus square root of 49 is 7. Square roots of 2. Square root of -1 is I. Or you could write it as 6 minus 7. Put the I in front of the radical. That's okay too. Your book keeps saying, put your answer in A plus B I form. If that's the case, the I's got to come at the end, but yet they'll write it with the I in front of the radical. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So now we've simplified. We've defined it. We've simplified it. Now we get to add and subtract. Now if you can do X's, you can do I's. So that says, how do I add them? I combine like terms. So this is 6 plus 4 plus 5I plus 3I, which is 10 plus 8I. This is the guy who causes us some problems. And that's when you put the 1 in front. And you've got to change everything that's behind it. So it's 11 plus 8I minus 2 minus 5I. Bring the numbers together. This you can do mentally if you want. and the i's together. Numbers is 9. I's is plus 3i. So that's adding and subtracting. That's as exciting as it gets. Multiplication is far more exciting, unfortunately. When you're dealing with radicals, with negative numbers on the inside, the first thing you're going to have to do is simplify each of these radicals first. This guy is 5i times 4i. And remember, essentially, this is the square root of 25 and then negative 1 times the square root of 16 and negative 1. So 25, this is 5i, and then 16 and negative 1, that's going to be 4i. This comes out to be 20i squared, and what do we know I squared is? Negative 1. So this is negative 1. So this turns into 20 times negative 1, because that's what I squared is, which is negative 20. This is a distributive property, so this is 18i minus 30i squared, just like x's on either i's. But the downside is I squared is negative 1, so this becomes 18i plus 30. If I put the step in, it's 18i minus 30 times negative 1. The 30 minus 30 times negative 1 turns it into a plus 30. That's where that came from. Now your book says a plus bi form, so they'd put the 30 in front and the 18 behind. I don't care. And now I can no longer tell you, if you tell anybody, I'll deny it. Why? Because you now have it on tape, right? And prove what I said. Now, binomial times a binomial, we FOIL it, right? First, 20, outer, plus 24i, inner, plus 5i, lasts, plus 6i squared. You treat it just like x's. So 20, 24i plus 5i is 29i, plus 6, and we know that I squared is negative 1, so it's 6 times negative 1. So it's 20 plus 29i minus 6, or 14 plus 29i. Go. Doable, right? Yes? No? Don't care. If you're going into 150, you care. Again, this is 4. It just looks bad, so, but just write it down. First is 25. Outer is plus 5 square roots of 3 times I. Inner is minus 5 square roots of 3 times I. And last is minus the square root of 3i times the square root of 3i. Now, what do you notice about these two terms right here? They cancel each other out, they add the 0. So this is 25 minus square root of 3 times square root of 3 is the square root of 9. And then I times I is I squared. And we know I squared is negative 1. So this is 25 minus square root of 3 is 9 is 3, and times negative 1, which is 25 plus 3, which is 28. Now, I want you to take a look at these two things right here. What's the relationship between those two sets of parentheses?
They're conjugates.
Good job. They're conjugates. They're identical except for the sign in the middle. And notice, when I'm dealing with i's and I multiply by the conjugate, that it killed I altogether. Conjugate relationships kill I. And that's what we're going to be working on Monday. Conjugates. Good job. Does everybody get their pre-homeworks back? Anybody not get their pre-homeworks? Where's the leftovers? Not picked up papers? You want to pass those over? Thank you. Okay, Jocelyn, it's yours. And Chad didn't show up for the other class. I'm going to pass these back. There you go. And John. Here's yours. Okay, and it has a list of what I'm missing. So, yeah, those of you who are complete can go ahead and leave. Those who are not can get to me what you're missing.